and welcome to another hour of Gate City Chronicles, the weekly magazine dedicated to Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm State Representative Kevin Avard, and I have a very special guest with me today. If you're a political junkie like I am, you know what's going on in the political arena, and it's hot and heavy. And I want to introduce you to a gentleman that maybe some of you have heard, maybe some of you haven't heard, but if you have an independent mind, if you have an open mind and are still confused as to which way you're going, I'd like to introduce you to Governor
and Congressman in Louisiana. Not at the same time, Kevin. I'm the only guy running for president who's been governor and congressman.
Right.
The only person.
And you knew President Reagan.
I did close. He and I worked close together. I was a conservative Democrat. I'm a conservative person. And the parties have kind of moved over time, and the Democrats kind of moved away from me.
Right.
But in Congress, I was elected as a Democrat. I formed a group called the Boll Weevils. You probably never heard of the Boll Weevils.
I've heard of the Boll Weevils.
Yeah, they were pretty famous. I organized 41 votes, all Democrat from all over the country, who supported President Reagan when we thought he was right, which was about 80% of the time. Right. So I was better than most Republicans, and that's how I knew Reagan. That was back in the 80s. Then in 88, I became governor of Louisiana through 92.
Right. And one of the famous quotes from President Reagan was, I didn't leave the Democratic Party, it left me.
No question, it happened to me. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm a liberal on civil rights issues. I think people ought to be treated with respect no matter whether they're Methodist or not, like me, and regardless of their color. And in the Deep South, that was fairly unusual, my position there. But I'm a hard rock conservative. I think the issue of our times is federal spending. I think we're out of control. I think government has become so large, so bloated, so fat, that it's a threat to our liberty. And you know, my lesson, Kevin, as a business person, is that you need 4 things to be a success in the 21st century. Let me list them. Fast. It's not big anymore. It's how fast you can move. Mm-hmm. In the old days, when I was a kid, it was big. How big is General Motors? Well, they're pretty much smaller now. Big's not the key. Fast. What's the most profitable restaurant in the world? McDonald's. Who's the chef? You don't know who the chef
exactly.
is. They're not in the food business.
Right.
They're in the fast business.
Right.
F, fast. Second F is flexible. There are a lot of ways to get something done. It doesn't have to be my way. So you need an open mind to figure out how to make your business work. So the first F is fast. The second F is flexible. The third F is focused. You can't do everything. I know I'm a banker. I've built a pretty good-sized bank. It's a community bank. It's a small bank, but it's a big-sized bank. To me, it's $1 billion. Wow. And I have to focus on that. And I've done that for 6 years since I started this bank. That's my focus. You know, I could give speeches. I could run for office. But I can't be a banker and give speeches and run for office. Right. So I was out of politics for a long time, focused on my banking business. That's a key to success. You know what the last F is? Fast, focused, flexible, friendly.
Right.
It's the key, long run, to get business. Do you smile? Do you shake a person's hand with firmness and kindness? It's not taught at the Harvard Business School where I went, but it ought to be.
Right.
Friendly. Now, I take those 4 Fs and ask, what is our government? Which one of those 4 Fs does our government have? Fast? I don't think so.
Maybe slippery. I'm not sure.
Flexible? I don't think so. Focused or friendly? So I'm not a professional politician, and I only get in this race because I think I can do better on the 4 Fs than government can.
Speaking on one of those Fs, focus. I started the show, and I did not focus, but I wanted to mention your name. You're Buddy Roemer.
Yes, thanks. I didn't even notice that. Because you knew me. I thought the whole audience did.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about you being on here. I did a little bit of homework, and I noticed some of my friends at the house Representative John Burt actually had an interview with you and spoke highly of you.
John was good.
Yeah. Well, he actually sits two next to me. And,
Does he?
Yeah, I'm considered a candy man.
From Goffstown?
Yeah, from Goffstown.
Yeah.
I hand candy out to the other
Do
state
you?
reps. Yeah.
You're the man.
It's politics.
People ask me, well, if you're president, how will you work with Congress? They're all divided. And I say, well, I've been a member of Congress. I know how they work. I'll play poker with them if that's what it takes. I'll watch football with them if that's what it takes. I go to church every Sunday, and if they invite me to their church, I'll do that. But the most important thing I'll do is listen. Here's what I'd like to do, clean up American politics. Do you have an idea? So I will ask their opinion, and I will listen. And then at the end, when we pass legislation, I will give them credit by name for standing with me. I'll reach across party lines. I'm a proud Republican, but I'm a prouder American, and build a new team for America.
Speaking of listening, I happened to look at one of the videos that you have on YouTube, and the Occupy Wall Street people, I really appreciate your courage of walking into the crowd and identifying yourself as a Republican.
Boy, they beat me up, didn't they?
Yeah,
Man,
well,
but that's okay.
Right.
Look, they're young people, Kevin. I told Herman Cain and one other guy running for president, I can't remember which one, and I don't want to make up a name, but two of them asked me, well, buddy, why did you go? And Newt Gingrich and Herman Cain had called them un-American, unpatriotic, and unwashed. And I said, well, I'm older than you guys. I'm the same age as Newt, but I was older than Herman. I said, I'm 68, and I can remember when young people changed America, civil rights marches. I can remember in college where the Vietnam War was stopped by young people. And I said, one of the lessons of being a grandfather is that I've learned to listen to young people. So I wanted to go listen to them. Now, I thought their solutions were terrible, but I thought their ability to smell was right on. Here's what they smell. Something's corrupt in Washington, D.C. and Wall Street. It's corrupt when a big check can get first in line. It's corrupt when a big bank can be bailed out and homeowners cannot. This system is run by special interests, Kevin. And in my opinion, it's not working for America. This country's in trouble. We need to take back our political system.
And from what I understand, buddy, you're one of the only candidates out there that it won't take any more than $100.
I'm the only candidate. Now, write this down, Kevin.
Yeah.
Don't fuzz this over, okay? Because this is important to me.
Sir.
If you believe like I do, if you're independent-minded, I don't care what party you're in. I'm an American. If you're independent-minded and you think the next president needs to tackle budget reform, tax reform, immigration reform, energy reform, jobs reform, trade with China, I think they're stepping all over us, reform. If you believe that, the only way to get it done is to not let the special interest own Washington. And they do. 4 years ago when McCain ran against Obama, they received more money from lobbyists and PACs in Washington than they did from 32 states combined. Our government's bought and sold, and it's not right, Kevin.
Right.
And look, there's nothing wrong with America that we can't clean up. But what's the first step? What's the first step? In my opinion, the first step is to get money out of the room and let real people come in. I'll give you an example. Healthcare reform. I'm a diabetic, been a diabetic for more than 40 years. I'm insulin dependent, was a diabetic as a young man. So I believe in healthcare reform. You know, some people can't afford to get sick. In fact, all people who get sick are amazed at how expensive it is. Guess who Obama had for healthcare reform? He had lawyers in the room, and we need tort reform. I'm not putting lawyers down, but frivolous lawsuits, come on, Kevin.
Right.
It's killing us, and nobody has the guts to say it.
And we've been talking about that for years, though, tort reform.
For years. Why doesn't it happen? We'll come back to why it doesn't happen. Insurance companies. Now, there's pretty expensive operation. Do you know you can't buy medical insurance across the state line? Do you know that insurance companies have a monopoly state by state? Do you know that insurance companies, and a good Republican will roll over in his grave when I say this, Teddy Roosevelt, Insurance companies are the only industry that aren't included in the Sherman Antitrust Act. There's no insurance competition. There's nobody that could come to New Hampshire and offer you a special deal.
Right.
It's against the law. So that's who he had in his room. Lawyers, insurance companies. He had pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't have to give this speech.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here.
I mean, really?
Exactly.
I mean, guess how much my most important part of healthcare is? The pharmaceuticals I buy as a diabetic. And there's no competition. In fact, Obama protected insurance companies, tort lawyers, and pharmaceutical companies. Here's the difference and why we need to beat him and put, in my opinion, a person free to lead. Here's what I would do. I would get rid of the insurance companies and the lawyers and the pharmaceutical companies in the table as we discuss health reform. Here's who I would have. Patients, doctors, and nurses. We would disallow frivolous lawsuits. The loser would have to pay. We would force insurance companies to compete. We would put them under the Sherman Antitrust Act. We would take away the protection for pharmaceuticals from price discounts. They would have to compete for their business. We would turn healthcare around by taking government out of it, just setting up the rules for engagement, and let choice and competition rule. We could lower healthcare costs by 20%. We wouldn't harm a single poor person or a single sick person. We would change the system. And that's what I'm proposing as a president, to change the system in the way we fund campaigns. Mm-hmm. Lower amount of money, no PACs, no super PACs, 48-hour disclosure, no lobbyists bring in a check, Kevin. It would be against the law, and I would have criminal penalties. We would put politicians in jail for breaking the law.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the smoke and mirrors that's going on in Washington right now. I personally think that the whole concept of us needing to tax the American people 1 red cent more than that they are is absolutely criminal. It seems like Washington cannot stop spending their money.
You can't give them enough money. You know why? They won't have tort reform. They won't put insurance companies under the Sherman Antitrust. You know why? I went to Congress. The first person that called me was an insurance representative. He had a $5,000 PAC check for me. I said, I don't take PAC checks. I don't take money from outside my district. I mean, I'm hard-nosed about corruption. I come from a state that was corrupt. We had the highest unemployment rate in America, Kevin, 12.8%, when I was sworn in as governor. We had a budget that hadn't been in balance in 7 years. We had taxes through the elbows, and yet some people didn't pay any taxes. Does that sound familiar?
You think?
I mean, we paid our school teachers worse than America. We had roads you couldn't drive on. We had the lowest rating bonds of any state in America with the highest debt. Does that sound familiar? It sounds just like Washington. I cleaned up Louisiana with a lot of help from a lot of people, and I want to give the legislature a lot of credit. They stood by me. Some flaked off, but they stood by me, and we cleaned up the state. We lowered unemployment from 12.8% to below 6%. We put people back to work. We brought people on our state. You know what I did? You know what new program I had? Campaign reform. I told the people of Louisiana, I'll make you a promise. We'll clean up your politics so that you could trust your government again. Wow. That's what we did. We put people in jail. We changed the rules. We didn't allow vote buying. We required full disclosure. That's what Washington needs. Mm-hmm. Just that simple. And all these good people running for president, they're not going to do a thing, Kevin. I told the Tea Party, I'm a Tea Party guy. And I'm the only guy that went to Occupy Wall Street. I'm a Tea Party guy. I go there, and they poked me, and they pushed me, and they yelled at me, but finally they quit, and they listened because they realized that what they share with the Tea Party and what they share with independent-minded voters is that they know Washington is corrupt. And if you don't clean up the corruption, Kevin, you'll change nothing. Right. Washington's in gridlock. The left has all this money, and the right has all this money, and they're trying to buy votes. Let's stop it.
Right.
Let's put this country together again. That's what I do.
We need to have more confidence in our justice system as well.
No question.
We have this problem with Fast and Furious. We have many people getting off, exonerated for whatever reason. Corzine loses $1 billion and he doesn't know where the money went.
You think he's going to jail?
I don't think so.
Of course not. Did anybody at Goldman Sachs go to jail?
No.
I mean, how much money did they steal? I'm a banker. Wall Street is a joke. Too big to fail is still the law after bank reform. Glass-Steagall has not been restored after bank reform. Capital ratios did not go up after bank reform. You know why? The week after he signed bank reform, President Obama goes to Wall Street, has a fundraiser. It's $35,800 a ticket. And it was hosted by Goldman Sachs. But this is just an example. Your government's bought. Yeah. It's rented from election to election. And they don't care whether it's Democrat and Republican. Both parties are addicted to money. Right. They'll take the special interest money. I'm running against people like John Huntsman, Mitt Romney, Newt Gingrich, Rick Perry. They all have super PACs. They're all getting $1 million checks except for John Huntsman, who's getting $10 million from his father. They don't report it. It's hidden, and it's against the law. What change are they going to make? I'm asking you, Kevin. Right. It's not going to happen. Obama gives these speeches about hope and change. Nothing happened. He was bought. Well, guess who was in the same box with him? George W. Bush. We bailed out the banks as fast as he could print the money. Look, this country's in trouble. Right. It's lost 1.3 million jobs in 14 years. It hasn't balanced its budget in a decade. It has a tax bill, a tax code that you can't read. You pay more taxes than GE does, Kevin. It's not right.
It is not right.
And the answer is simple. Let me say it for your viewing audience. It's reform. It's stopping the special interests from owning the government. And I'm not the only one who can do it. Mitt Romney could do it. Newt Gingrich could do it. Michelle Bachmann could do it. Rick Santorum could do it. John Huntsman could do it. Who am I leaving out? Rick Santorum could do it, but they won't. They take the money. They take the money. This is about corruption. I'm the guy that came to Chicago, that cleaned out Al Capone. That's what I do. I fight the corruption. You know why? I believe in America, and I love it. And the country is headed downhill, and we can turn it around. We can do it.
And on that note, I know you have to go to St. Anselm's from here. I want my viewers to know, how can they get in touch with you?
Thanks. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
I live in Manchester, so you can come see me. I'm at 66 Hanover Street, right above the Chamber of Commerce in beautiful downtown Manchester. So if you want to come see me, I'm there all the time, here every day. Okay. But you can get on my website, buddyroemer.com, and Roemer is R-O-E-M-E-R. I won't take anything over $100, but if you want to give me 5 or 10 or 50 and do something you've never done, contribute to the next president, I want you to do it, New Hampshire. I want New Hampshire to send a message to Washington. Buddy Roemer. That's all you have to send.
And you're on Facebook as well.
I am on Facebook.
Governor, I really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks,
and
Kevin.
Godspeed to you, and we wish you well.
Let's talk singing next time.
Yeah,
I know you're a singer,
I'm
man.
a singer. That's right. All right. Well, thank you very much, and I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. Until we'll take a little break here, and then we'll be right back. Thank you very much. And I have a special guest with me today, Lisa Michaud from the Red Cross.
Yes.
Yes. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this whole show is about getting to know you, and of course, everybody's heard about the Red Cross.
I hope so.
Yes, and you're part of the communications end of the Red Cross.
I am.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about that and about your role?
I can.
All right.
Thank you. I am actually the Chief Communications and External Relations Officer for New Hampshire, and that means that I get to come on programs like this and talk to you about American Red Cross and what we do in our communities and across the world. Okay. And it's one of my favorite things to discuss.
All right. Well, we were talking a little bit earlier, and you were saying how that there have been some changes.
Yes.
In the Red Cross, and one of the challenges that you have is that you're everywhere, but people don't see you.
And that happens often, and I think it's because people think that they're only going to see us during times of disaster. But what people don't realize on a regular basis is that we're in the schools, we're in corporations, we're giving presentations all the time on how to remain safe, how to prepare for disasters, what you do if a disaster hits, and we talk to people about making sure that they're prepared.
Well, we see a lot of blood drives all over town, whether
Yes.
it's at the churches or at the schools. Are you responsible for that part of it, or more of the natural disaster part of it, or?
Well, there are two, even though we're one Red Cross, I would say under that one umbrella there are two divisions, I would say. One is that blood collections, and the other one is the response for disasters and the educational component. And I actually, although I do work with blood services, my job primarily is reporting about emergency services, health and safety initiatives. We work with the school system in Nashua. It's called the SSI program, and it's sponsored by Oracle each year. And we go into the schools and we teach the children how to be safe.
Oh.
We actually had a hero last year from one of the Nashua schools that we honored at our Heroes Breakfast.
Really?
Yes, a young child who saved someone's life.
And so your responsibility is to coordinate the communications between?
To coordinate, to make sure that the story is told, to make sure that people know where we are, what we're doing, how they can better be prepared for the disasters, how they can connect with families during times of disaster. A lot of people don't realize that we work with the military. We do emergency messaging. For instance, if you mentioned earlier that you have some family relative in the service.
Yes.
If there was an emergency, or even something like, say it was your son and his wife was having a child and he was away, you could get in touch with your local American Red Cross, and we would work with their commanding officer.
Oh, interesting.
To to verify the information that we were given, and then that commanding officer would make the decision whether or not they'd be allowed to come home.
So is it any particular branch? Is it the Army Guard, or is it all the branches?
All. One of the great things about the Red Cross is that we're neutral.
Right.
And so we...
So it's not all just, hey, let's go all Marines, right?
No,
it's everybody.
It's everybody.
Yeah,
It's everybody. We're a humanitarian organization, so we treat everyone the same.
Right. Now, we were talking a little bit about, you said you're up at Concord a lot. You work in the governor's office or with the governor's relationship?
We partner. The American Red Cross partners with the governor's office. We partner with Homeland Security.
Who do you communicate up there with? Is it directly in his office, or is it with the executive council, or is it, how does that work?
Well, we talk with everybody.
Right.
Because we want to make sure that we're advocating for health and safety, for preparedness, like I said before. We want to make sure that the American Red Cross has a voice, because we actually advocate for people.
Right.
And we want to make sure, we deliver hope.
Right.
And so we have to be that voice of hope.
Right.
And so we talk to people, and we talk about how we do that. For instance, during the recent blizzard that we had.
I was going to bring that up this last October.
Yes, and we had a shelter here in Nashua, and we worked, our emergency services director, who's Ian Dyer, he's the head for all of New Hampshire for the emergency response. Him and his 3 program managers all are in communication with Homeland Security. So he works directly with Rick Crescenti up there, and he reports everything back together. They report to Red Cross what the information is, and vice versa. So they're sharing of information so that it's to the betterment of the citizens of New Hampshire.
Right. So how did that happen? How did it all work out when we had this big blizzard and the power outages? Were you flooded with calls? Do you have your infantry go out and here we are? How did all that work?
Well, we have a trained staff of volunteers, hundreds of volunteers throughout the state, and they've all been trained Red Cross ready to go in. They have to do it the Red Cross way, and so everything from sheltering to how they're fed, everything that they talk about, the media, how you deal with the media, how you report the story, everything from start to finish has already been prearranged before the storm even hits.
All right, so you're actually working with the local media.
Days before.
Right.
Days before. We can see it coming. We monitor the weather. We are part of the network that is alerted when there's a storm coming. We are part of the conversation when the governor calls everybody together and he wants to hear what everybody's doing.
Right.
American Red Cross is one of those organizations that reports back to him what we're doing. So he knows where the sheltering is, how many people we have in those shelters, all of that. And we work in partnership with other people. So with the different towns,
right.
280,
something like
that towns in New Hampshire. And
260, I thought.
yeah, something like that.
Right.
A little over 200.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so we gather that information. We also do disaster assessment after a disaster. We have volunteers that are trained to do that. And our information we share with Homeland Security that eventually goes to the governor's office, because ultimately everything gets reported to the governor.
Now, does FEMA coordinate with you as well?
FEMA is one of the partners that we also work alongside all the time.
Well, that's interesting. Wow. So, what are some of the obstacles that you're running into when it comes to these natural disasters, or what are some of the things that you need to overcome or that you have overcome that's changed recently?
I think in the past couple years, one of the biggest changes that's occurred that people may not understand and may be a little bit unsettled about is our regional sheltering. Instead of having a shelter in Nashua and in Hollis and in Litchfield and in Merrimack, what we say is, where is the greatest need? Where is the greatest population? And with the mapping that we've done and in the research that we've done on the down times when there hasn't been a disaster, this is where we think the best shelter would be. Right. So it's a good use of our human resources as well as our other resources. And so somebody in Hollis may need to travel to Nashua if the shelter's in Nashua, and they want to stay in their own town. We certainly understand that, but when we're manning a shelter that's 24/7 for, it could be a week, 10 days. A few years ago when we had the ice storm, it was a little over 2 weeks.
Right.
We don't have the manpower to be able to keep that up on a regular basis.
Are the shelters transient? In other words, are they all dependent upon what type of disaster they are? For instance, if you're in Nashua, you have point A, point B, point C, but the disaster happened over here. So do all those points change to a different location depending upon that disaster?
It would depend, yes, because you wouldn't want to put a shelter in the middle of where all the turmoil is.
Right.
You want to make sure that you have a staging area, and you want to make sure that you're not going to be part of the problem, that you're actually the solution, one of the solutions.
So your job would be to coordinate with all these potential areas of shelter and communicate that to the governor's office that...
Actually, no.
Okay.
Ian Dyer, again, the Emergency Services Director, he's the one who is in the trenches. He's the one that does all that work.
Okay.
He lets me know what's going on, and then I share that information
All
with the
right.
storytellers.
All right. So you're the go-to for the big guys, for the big guns in the state.
Well, I don't know about that because I am the government relations liaison as well.
Right.
And part of my role and my responsibility is to make sure that the governor is informed at all times of what the Red Cross is doing.
Now, where are you located specifically?
I'm located on Concord Street here in Nashua.
Okay, and that's right above Main Street?
Yes, it is.
Up on your left, past the little bell if you're heading north.
It is. It's a big white Victorian, and it has a nice Red Cross sign out in front. And I can tell you, I just couldn't be more proud to work for an organization, a humanitarian organization. I've seen so many responses now. I see the education that we're doing with everybody from the cradle on. We're teaching constantly, raising the awareness of how to remain safe. And I've actually seen fires where the Red Cross has shown up, the first ones on the scene right after the first responders, and be able to wrap a Red Cross blanket around a young child or an elderly person.
I've witnessed that myself, actually last year.
It's incredible.
They were right there, Johnny on the spot. It was actually in the Hollis Crossing area. There was a condo. They were there just almost simultaneously when the fire trucks were there. And I work up at the Capitol with a state representative, Don LeBrun. Apparently, he was a volunteer up at the Nashua chapter for between 15 or 20 years. I mean, he was a long-termer, and he spoke very, very highly of the Red Cross. And you know, from time to time, charities seem to come up in conversations up at the Capitol. And you know, in past histories, when people donate to a charity, you say, well, geez, 90% of it goes to the big execs up in the upper echelon. But Don is like, he's right on fire. He says, not the Red Cross. That money goes right to where it's got to go. And you just, he's vehemently pro Red Cross. And I think, wow, if you have an advocate, State Representative Don LeBrun, very quality representative, but he definitely speaks highly of it. So your organization definitely is volunteer driven.
It is volunteer driven. We couldn't do it without our volunteers. We only have, let me see, I want to say we have 13 or 14 paid staff, not including our instructors. We have part-time per diem instructors. But then we have, I would say 700, 800 perhaps volunteers that are trained and ready to go at any time. And these volunteers also can be assigned across the states. So for instance, the California wildfires or something like another Katrina, you know, we hope that doesn't happen. But our volunteers are part of a system, a data management system where we can actually call up people that have special skills that have been trained in certain areas. We have a career path that we ask our volunteers to follow depending upon what their passion and their interest is.
Interesting.
And we help to empower them in that position.
Plus you're overseas as well.
We're everywhere.
Wow.
We really are. We're international, Red Cross, Red Crescent Society, and then, you know, of course, the American Red Cross, which we're part of here. But I can't stress enough how much our volunteers mean to us, because they are the ones that drive everything. They're the ones that are out there in the middle of the night. They're the ones that are putting the blankets around those young children. They're delivering the meals. You know, they truly wear their heart on their sleeves, and they are the Red Cross.
Now, if somebody wants to volunteer, do they just walk in, or is there a website that you could talk about? Or?
Yes, we love people to go to our website because we've been working very hard on it and updating it. It's really looking nice. It's nhrredcross.org, and you can find everything out about the New Hampshire Red Cross on there. We have news, we have local news, we have international news, we'll have updates on things. We also have an outline of all of our services, where we are, what we're doing. We have pictures of our volunteers in action, things like that. We do have a number of events coming up. Would you mind if I just spoke a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay. We have a Heroes Breakfast that we give every year. And up until this past year, we had 3 in the state. And now what we've done in the past year or so is we've consolidated a lot of our back office functions, and we have made things a lot more efficient. We're saving money in a lot of different areas. So what we decided to do was to make it a statewide event, and it's very exciting. So we're holding it in Portsmouth this year, and we're asking people from around the state to go onto our website, again, nhrredcross.org, and to click on Heroes Breakfast. There's a fillable nomination form there, and you can actually nominate somebody for that award. And then our breakfast will be held March 22nd.
All right. Now, do you accept contributions from corporations for these particular types?
Absolutely, and we have
sponsors.
Yes, sponsorship levels are listed also on the website under the Heroes Breakfast. We also have an audio PSA that we had done to explain to people, and there's an overview of the event and where it's going to be held. It's the Harborside Hotel, the Sheraton in Portsmouth. And we've had it there, I believe this will be our 3rd year there, and they're wonderful to us. So when we have sponsors, I know that BAE is one of our sponsors. We have several others. Right now, they escape me. But
Oracle?
Oracle, they do the SSI program with the children in the schools. But they're never far away from us. We have some tremendous, Unitil is another one of our major sponsors, major partnership with them. We also do a lot of safety messaging. They send out their bills monthly, and they'll include safety tips from the Red Cross.
Oh, wow.
So it's really important. You know, again, we have a lot of value. I'm only one of a phenomenal team.
Right.
Our CEO, Maria White, is at the helm, and we have Karen Fabus, who is our Chief Operating Officer, and Stephanie Couturier, who's our Chief Development Officer. And then there's me on the executive team, and then we have our whole leadership that are the people that are just incredible. They inspire me every single day.
Well, we're glad that you came on the show.
Thank you.
Is there any other events happening in the Nashua area that as far as PSAs are concerned?
Well, no, we did recently in September. We had a golf tournament.
Okay.
And Toyota of Nashua was our lead sponsor. So we will be having another golf tournament this coming year. We also, right now, we're running a holiday campaign where we're asking people to resolve in the new year to think about the Red Cross, whether you want to volunteer your time, your blood, donate some money, donate your services, your resources is what we need, because again, as a humanitarian organization, it's maybe perhaps me today that's affected and you tomorrow.
Right.
But together, you know, we're going to be on that road to recovery a lot quicker, and the American Red Cross is committed and devoted to you and to making sure that you are as safe as humanly possible.
Now, do you receive any funds from the state at all, or is that part of the state's budget? Some of the Red Cross?
No.
Nothing. Huh?
No, nor the city budgets. We do not charge for our disaster services or our responses in emergencies. What we do is we do ask the towns whether they would consider a donation to the American Red Cross each year. And I know that recently we got word that Nashua did send a donation to the American Red Cross through their budgeting this past year. So we want to say thank you for that.
Thank you very, very much.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Do you work with local access TV at all? This is my first interview with you, and this is another source for people to see what the Red Cross is doing. Have you had any, experience working with local access TV?
Yes.
Say in Nashua or in Manchester or?
I have in Bedford.
Okay.
Bedford Community TV, also Goffstown Community TV,
All right.
and now you.
Right.
And we've worked a lot with NHPR.
Representative John Burt has a show up in Goffstown too. I don't know if that's the person you spoke with first.
No, it was actually Immobilio that interviewed me.
Well, let me give you a plug for John Burt's show.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
Is there anything else you would like our viewers to know, or anything else other than the fact that you just came from Cancun?
Oh my goodness, no.
Welcome to the beautiful fire that we have here.
Thank you. It's almost as warm as the sun.
Yeah.
I just really would like people to know that the people that work for the American Red Cross are people of the heart. And I say that everywhere I go because it's true. I've seen people sacrifice taking off their own shoes to give to a client who we've just responded to in a disaster. I've seen people lose sleep for 2 to 3 days on and off, just napping because they want to be there to help people.
Right.
I've seen people give up family time so that they can learn how to respond.
Right.
You know, even the principal at the Nashua High School, when we had our shelter just recently for the blizzard, he came in with his son, and his son and him set up the television in the common area so that people, they had been sitting there for days, and he just wanted them to have some sort of an entertainment. And it's people like that.
Right. That's what makes a community.
Yes, it's true. And the Red Cross is in this community, and we're all over the state and across the nation and around the world. And we just want people to know that we really truly care.
Right.
And everybody that's a part of it, they do care.
You're just speaking of that one particular fire that I saw the Red Cross happen to come to, the shock on the people's face when they came home, they didn't realize their house was on fire.
Sure.
And that the fact that the Red Cross was right there, along with the fire department, with the blankets, with the waters, with the emergency food, it's a comfort that you can't explain.
It's hope.
That's really what it is. And I want to thank you for coming on the show and talking about the Red Cross.
Thank you very much.
Right. And
thank you.
It's the music, so we have to get going. But so I just want to thank our sponsors, Nashua Steam Cleaning, and I've the Dean of Clean. And until next week, thank you for joining us here on Gate City Chronicle. Bye now.
Goodbye.